Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day out here. And today I want to talk about a few things. The first one is about the circle of life. Well, the circle of life is your life. If you can imagine a forest or any other area that's wild, and you put a big circle around it, then everything within that circle would be you, right? Because you put the circle there. And so that's what your life is. And it starts out with when you're a baby, you don't have a circle. And as you grow up, you start putting circles around your life. And over time, as you grow older, the circles get smaller and smaller. And when somebody asks you want to be, what you want to be, then you have to make the circle a little bit smaller. And pretty soon, if you want to be a doctor, they say, what are you going to specialize in? And that makes the circle even smaller. And the circle is your life. And you're bounded by it. And that's also not just your life, but all your beliefs and your ideas, they're all within that circle. And that's why it's so hard for people to change their minds the older they get. Because they can't go outside the circle. What's outside the circle is the unknown. And we've talked about that before. What's inside the circle is everything that keeps the circle there. Which is your attachments, your fears, your emotions, your thoughts. If you could see inside the circle, you'd see there are all these lines drawn between the edge of the circle and you. And what these lines do is they keep the circle where it is. And those lines are the attachments and thoughts, which you're also attached to. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in as human beings. And if we try to step outside that circle, we feel fear. And if anyone else tries to step inside our circle, we feel fear and anger. And that's just the way it is. And that circle of your life is you. And as long as you are in your circle, you feel safe. You feel everything's going the way you want it to go. But there's only one problem with that. You're not the one in control. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. The ego, the thing inside your head is in control. The creature that we call the ego that exists within your mind is what's in charge. Okay? And so you are trapped. And when I say you, I mean the real you, your soul, which is a soul that you have. You can't have a soul, and you can't make it your soul because you can't possess something that you are. I can't possess my hand, now can I? Okay? But possession is a problem because you possess your circle. And that may include your house, your car, your business, your other house, your other car, and so on and so forth. And as long as you're in that circle, you feel safe and everything's fine, and so on and so forth. Waking up is breaking open the circle. And the attachments are what hold the circle there. And you cannot wake up until those attachments are gone. Because with those attachments there, they're like a strong steel structure, keeping the circle from being broken. Now, this idea of a circle being your life, okay, is really about what is hemming you in. Now, the smaller and smaller your circle gets, it eventually becomes a point. And that is your point of view. And your point of view, you think, is right. And everyone else's point of view is wrong, unless they agree with you. So that's the way it is. And this circle of life that you are in is part of a control system, a system of control that your ego has set up in order to keep it in control. Now, I know this may sound strange, but that is what it is. Now, we as spiritual beings do not want to be kept in a circle, do we? No, we want to be free. But in order to be free, we have to break the steel structure of the attachments. And in order to do that, we have to realize that we are not the ones doing the thinking. The wind is up. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that once you realize that you are not the ego, that you are not the person that you think you are, then the attachments can start being broken. Okay? Give you an example. I had an attachment to sex. I think everybody does. But it took me a long time to figure out what it was. It wasn't attachment to a woman or women in general. It wasn't an attachment to the sex act. It was an attachment to the result. I know, isn't that crazy? To the feeling of having made love. Okay? The feeling. Remember right after you make love with someone that you love? That incredible feeling? That's what I was attached to. And in order to let go of that feeling, I had to let go of a steel girder, which was keeping my circle in. And that's what you have to do too. Once you realize and recognize that you are not the one doing the thinking, you are not the one that's in control, you are not the one making the decisions, okay? Then, and that's a big realization. I'm not saying it's small. It's hard to realize this for yourself because we have always been taught to think that we are in charge. We're the ones making the decisions. Right? Isn't that what you've always thought? I've always thought that too. So, how do we break these steel girders that are holding us within this circle? By accepting. By accepting that you are not a person. You are a soul. Now, maybe you don't believe in souls or God. Fine. You are consciousness. You believe in that, don't you? You are consciousness. That is who you are. You are not this human being. You are not the body, the car, the house, your possessions. None of that stuff is you. You are consciousness, pure, unadulterated consciousness. I'm sorry, the wind is bumping the camera, so I'm sorry. And that is who you are. And if you continue to be and believe that you are a person, then those attachments are going to rule your life. As I've said before, attachment is the path to the dark side, which is a line from Star Wars. Okay? And Star Wars had it right. Because these attachments are pulling you into the darkness. That's what they're doing. Because they are narrowing down your field of view. You can't see everything now because these attachments are keeping you focused on a small screen. Okay? That's what they're doing. You think, oh, I look that way, I look that way, I can see everything. Well, you can't see everything. Because you can't really see. When I look at this blade of grass, okay, or the sky, I see what is really there because I don't have this attachment to me. I'm free. The blade of grass is a life form. Even if it's dying, it's still a life form, which means it has a spark, a soul, whatever you want to call it. Just like me. So it is me. There's no difference between me and a blade of grass. Okay? Yes, I have more cells. Yes, I'm more complex, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's the same soul. The same piece of God that animates me animates that grass. We are one. But if you are hemmed in by these steel girders of attachments, which you undoubtedly are unless you have been on the spiritual path, then you cannot see this blade of grass or tree for anything but what you think it is. And what do you think it is? Nothing, right? That's what you think. It's nothing but a piece of grass. It's nothing. Okay? The tree is something to be cut down. The cow is something to be killed and eaten. That is what you see. Which isn't what is. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with eating cows or mowing grass or cutting down trees. I hold all life sacred. I would never kill anything, even a mouse or a fly. Because it has as much right to live as I do. Because it is a soul. Now you can say, oh, a fly is not a soul. A piece of grass doesn't have a soul. Which is fine. You can say that. But the fact is, it has the same spark. We all have the same. Everybody, everything that lives on this planet has the same spark animating us. And so if you say that this is nothing, or that is nothing, then you're saying that you are nothing. Because that is you. Now, there's an old Alan Watts speech about the figure and the background. And what he's saying is that the background is the figure. My environment is me. The air is me. Because it's alive. Because it's not dead. Now, you can say, well, how can these molecules that make up the air be alive? Because they're a part of me. They make me alive. So if you can't give life, then you can't be made of life. But if you can give life, then you have to be made of life. Right? And people say, oh, well, these inanimate molecules, okay, maybe they're inanimate, but they give life to everything on this planet, except plants. Plants need carbon. So, try to step outside of your circle. Remember the forest, the circle around it? That forest is you. Because it is life, and you are life. You are not a body. You are not a mind. You are not a brain. You're life. And that life stems from the source. I'm not saying that the source is God, but God is a handy reference word to use with it. Okay? So, from God. But if you don't believe in God, then pay no attention to that. Anyway, so, when you fear something, that is because you are under an illusion. Okay? The illusion of separateness. But there's also other illusions. The illusion of safety, the illusion of having what you want, and the illusion of time. And there's just other ones too. And all these illusions are there to keep you in your circle. That's what they're there for. Because if you step outside your circle, you are going to face the unknown, which is very, very scary. And so that's what these illusions and attachments are for. And why are they there? Because the ego, the fake identity, put them there in order to be able to control you. Because it wants to be bigger. That's what it wants. And if it can't make you great, then it's going to control you. I know this stuff is kind of hard to understand, but the circle of your life is really a prison. And when you step outside of it, you feel the fear of the unknown and you scuttle back into safety. I've heard of prisoners who were released from jail and they just couldn't handle the freedom of not being in jail. And so they went back because that was their safety circle. Obviously, you're probably not in prison. Maybe you are, I don't know. But your safety circle, whatever it is part of what's keeping you from experiencing God or the source, depending on what persuasion you are religion-wise. So, that's what is going on with you and you. And if you continue to stay in the circle, which you can, there's nothing stopping, okay? It's not a circle anymore, it's a wall, okay? And it keeps you where you are. That's it. No personal growth can happen while you're in the circle. Why? Because the circle is keeping you safe. And safety equals sameness. That's what it is. It's all the same. That's why people say they go to different countries and the people are all the same. Okay? Oh, it's just a bunch of landscapes and the people are the same and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because they aren't really seeing what is. They're seeing what their circle allows them to. All these filters to our vision, to our hearing, to our taste and touch, all these filters that are in our mind, okay, are there to keep you down on the farm. Okay? Remember Elton John's song, Yellow Brick Road? About a guy who came off the farm and so on and so forth. That's where you're being kept at. That's where you're being prisoned. Okay? And as long as you are continuing to live inside this circle of you, it's not anyone else, it's you. You made the circle. Well, not you, but your fake identity, which you think is you. Anyway. Now this has something to do with death. When we die, the circle is finally broken. And I don't know if you've ever been with dying people, but when they die, there's a certain look on their faces, especially if they were terminal, because they can suddenly feel the freedom. Even if they're not dead yet, somehow they get freed because the circle collapses. And many people wake up when they're dying. I don't want you to die, or anyone to die, just in order to wake up. But I want you to escape this thing that you're imprisoned in. That's it. You are in prison, a prison made for you by your mind with all the things that you think make you comfortable in them. Okay, so you don't notice that you're in a prison. And that includes drugs and cigarettes and alcohol and anything else that you think makes you feel comfortable. And when stressful things happen, okay, and trauma happens, we retreat further into our circle and we put up new walls, closer and closer. And that is what is going on. But there is a way to break free of that, and that is to accept what is. Maybe you don't know what is. Well, I'll tell you. What is reality. Not the filtered reality that you're used to, but real reality. When I came out after awakening, I came outside and I could see that all of the leaves and the grasses were glowing. Light was coming out of them, out of the edges. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Because they have the spark, the soul, just like I do. And I was seeing that light that's within them, that's within all of us, coming out because suddenly my eyes had been opened. So, there is a way to be free, and that way is to accept. That's it. Accept that you are in whatever situation you're in. Are you lonely? Accept it. Are you sad? Accept that. Because only by accepting these things can we make them go away. You can't run away and you can't push them away. There's only one way to make them go away. And that's love. Love is what you're doing when you're accepting things. You're loving them. They say God is love. And God has accepted you. That's why he put his soul in you. You are that soul. So you need to accept yourself. Accept the beauty that is you. Whether you're beautiful or ugly, or tall or thin or short or fat, doesn't matter. Black and white, Mongolian or Chinese, none of that stuff matters, because the only thing that does matter really is love. And if you don't have love, then life is empty and gray. And that's just the way it is. And this love that God has for you, it's way more powerful than any love you've experienced. And this is what awakening is partly about. Experiencing God's love. Experiencing the universe's love. Because God is the universe. God is the grass. God is me. He's you. He's everything that exists in this universe. And you say, well, no, that's not true. God's not the sun. Okay? And maybe he's not, but you know what? Pretty sure he is. Okay? Because he is everything. Remember, everyone said God's everywhere. He sees everything. From religion. Well, that was right, but not because of the way they think. Sitting in his heaven looking down. God sees everything because God is everything. There would be nothing but empty space if not for God. The scientists say that when the Big Bang happened, there were just as many antimatter particles as matter particles. And when the two particles met, they exploded, except for 1 in a billion. And that is why we have mass. That is why we have suns. That is why we have galaxies. That is why we have star clusters. That's why we have me and you. Who do you think made that 1 in a billion happen? It was God. That's the scientists can't really explain why it should be, why there should be matter, but there is matter because God wanted it that way. I'm not going to convince you there's a God. I can't do that. Okay. But I can convince you that there is a power in the universe. And that power in the universe is a higher power. Okay? And whether or not we call it God or the source or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. What matters is accepting what is and stepping outside your little circle that makes you feel safe. Safety is overrated. That's all there is to it. Well, I guess that's enough from me today. I love you all because you're me. Just like this grass is, just like these trees are, just like everything in the universe is me and is you. And because that's so, I love everything. Try to remember who you really, really, really are. Because it's not this body, it's not this mind, it's not this brain. It's God. Or rather, a piece of Him in your soul. Okay? That's it. So just try to remember that when everything else is going on. Because the world is having a lot of stuff go on. And it's very distracting. But you are not a distraction. You are not something that people tune into to whatever. And getting on social media and showing off your bosom or your pecs or whatever it is, okay, is only going to bring you down, because that is fighting against the isness. And the isness is that this is only a temporary form and it's going to change. Having pride in your looks, having confidence in your looks, having whatever in your looks, is going to lead you down a path, because when your looks change, that pride is going to shatter. And along with it, you. So, try to accept. Just try. All right. Have a great life.